The original idea for the apology and the awareness of how important it was shot down and ignored by John Howard in 1997. He was the Prime Minister of the time. He made it clear that no apology was to be made in regards to prior injustices experienced by Indigenous people such as the stolen generations, due to the actions of non-Indigenous people. On the other hand, state premiers were offering these apologies as they felt the issue needed to be addressed. The process kicked off with a parliamentary apology in Queensland on the 26th of May 1997. It followed with the other states apologising too. The federal government did talk about the issue, however they didn't specifically apologise. In 1999, John Howard expressed the deep and sincere regret for the injustices that Indigenous Australians had suffered. Although he did this, the leader of the opposition, Kim Beazley, felt it was not enough. He believed that the Indigenous people deserved an apology for the hurt and trauma they had to suffer as a consequence of the injustices. In response to this, Howard and other conservative political and social leaders argued that previous generations were responsible for the injustices. Therefore, it wasn't the responsibility of today's society to apologize. They felt that making today's society apologize would place unfair blame on those who weren't responsible. These people also claim that the intentions of those who initiated the actions were good, despite the fact that the result was damaging to many people. The way Howard responded to the demands for an apology caused people to boo at him and turn their backs while he performed his speech at the Australian Reconciliation Convention. His job was to deliver the keynote address, but the people refused to listen to him, as he didn't listen to the demands. Many people of society began to lose their respect for him as a Prime Minister. Despite this, he still made it clear that he opposed the idea to apologise because Australians of this generation should not be required to accept guilt and blame for past actions and policies over which they had no control. Many people saw Carting's Redfern Park speech as a step in a positive direction to ending racism, but Howard's approach seemed like a step backwards. Kevin Rudd was elected the new Prime Minister in 2007. Within his first week in Parliament, he made an effort to apologise to the Indigenous Australians for poor treatment since European settlement till recent years. Although no compensation was made, the nation became aware that Indigenous people had been wronged. This already had a much greater effect on society than any of John Howard's attempts. The leader of the opposition of this time, Brendan Nelson, affirmed Rudd's speech. As the speech was made, the Parliament was packed, and many people gathered around the country in schools, offices, and other public spaces to view the live telecast of the speeches. It was a speech that many people of the nation had been waiting for, as a sign of the understanding and sorrow the Europeans should have felt for the Indigenous community. The speech led to Australia being able to move on and catch up to other Commonwealth nations that had already moved on from the issue of racial discrimination against Indigenous people, for example, Canada. To many people, the speech was meaningless. Instead, they looked for societal actions of change, removing the disadvantages of Indigenous Australians. Only these actions would execute reconciliation in the eyes of these people. For example, equal education and equal job opportunities would be a good step forward. After the apology, this idea became clearer to Indigenous leaders. They realised the speech didn't have a big enough impact. It was just words, and actions speak louder than words. It was necessary for actions to be taken to show the newfound equality. There was also a lot of support from the public and media, with headlines and posters titling "Sorry" in reference to past actions taken by European settlers. Although the need for these actions were noticed, no actions were taken in effect. In fact, the social well-being of some communities had significantly worsened. This was a very unexpected outcome for the Aboriginal leaders because they had been fighting for improved rights since the 1960s.